that this is much more than just the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. The access to prisoners calling shots from the outside. Over 50 homicides this year through intelligence gathering have been related to persons in prisons calling hits on persons. For the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we will become responsible, and you will be hearing very shortly what I intend to do to work with the prison service to put an end to this, or at least to minimize it. The light sentences that I spoke about recently, where someone steals a mango, they can get 3 years in prison, and someone is found with an illegal firearm and they will be given 1 year. And what I find unfortunate is recently a representative for that criminal justice system, he tried a cop-out, where he basically said we need to look at the, if we sentence the individual and not the offense. But I find it is high time that Trinidad and Tobago stop finding excuses. We must take our head out of the sand and realize that, look, we have a situation, we have problems, let us deal with the problems and not just try to find excuses. We have the situation of the easy access to bail. Again, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we got involved. The situation with the Venezuelan input that was not catered for sometime last year, where dozens of persons have actually been killed directly or indirectly because of the problems with Venezuelans. States, these gang contracts through the state, which again, thankfully, the Honorable Prime Minister stated that he would deal with. Poor parenting, the order to wicked posse, the refusal from the public to give evidence. So it is difficult for the police to be involved in getting a high detection rate when the biggest system to deal with detection and crime solving is based on human intelligence. The porous borders, and also, just a final point, where sometimes we will try to glorify criminals, and it's not in any way directed at the media, but it will be news. And when this happens, like for example, there was a very successful operation that took place recently in Las Cuevas, and it not been for that, there would have been probably an escalation in homicides, but the main photograph that was taken was a lady's door being broken into, rather than the fact of what we did that have caused many to prevent other homicides from taking place. So with this, what I would like to do is, again, as I stated, this is not the Gary Griffith show. The verdict is definitely out. What I can say is that we now have a better Trinidad and Tobago police service. We have a situation where we have to build a foundation, and that foundation is to ensure that we can move forward. It could not be a knee-jerk situation with us just trying to find low-hanging fruit to deal with a situation. This situation we're in is something that took place for the last 15 years based on a number of shortcomings. I just mentioned a few. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we will be at the forefront, we will know what is required, what needs to be done, but again, we need all hands on deck. It involves from a socio-economic perspective, dealing with parenting, communities, dealing with, as I mentioned, gangs are getting state contracts, the situation with illegal immigration, the borders, the criminal justice system, and so forth. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we will continue to pursue and do what is required. And what I will just do again, the time is limited. I wish to inform the members of the media. There's no need for much writing. We are going to provide everything to you via proper correspondence and on soft copy, so you will have everything that is required. So I mentioned what we will just do is just give a short synopsis of what we have achieved over the last year to ensure the improvement of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And by doing that, it is the main aspect to deal with ensuring the fundamental rights of the citizens can be adhered to, which is that of safety and security. As we move forward to the year in review, as I mentioned here, there will be 70-odd main policies, operations, tools, decisions that have been made over the last year. This involves testing, research, data for us to make the right decision and to utilize our limited national security resources in an effective and efficient manner. We started off with the use of technology. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, I think, basically also making sure that everything that can be fed in real time. This will link with what is going to take place in the second year when we will start to implement the concept of the coastal patrol unit, the drones, and other types of technology that can ensure real-time video footage being fed back to an operational command center to ensure that we can have an immediate response. You'll also see online GPS tracking of the emergency response vehicles. this GPS tracking is ensured now that vehicles can stay in their area of responsibility. We can monitor their movement, make sure that when it is that there's a distress call, we can measure their performance and to monitor exactly how fast they can get to a distress call. The concept of this is to ensure eventually that all major distress calls, you can get a response in a minute, on most occasions less than 5 minutes. As we also mentioned, we will also see we equipped officers with body cameras. Then we, as I mentioned, the installation of cameras on vehicles to improve accountability and transparency. The Organized Crime Intelligence Unit also, they will be equipped with technology towards improving intelligence to solve crime. New units, there will be the establishment of several new units over the last year. We ignited the cold case missing persons unit, and with this now we have the support from our international allies, and this case more importantly, the British High Commission, where it is that we intend again, through the proper use of crime scene investigation, DNA testing, to improve the concept of the cold case and missing persons unit. At times, I'm not here to give the assurance that we will be able to solve all cases, but I think on most occasions, what the family members require is some degree of closure, or for us to still pinpoint the perpetrators, and this can actually be achieved because of the improvement linking the technology to deal with cold cases. The restructuring of the E999 unit, again, this is for greater efficiency. It is going to be linked with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service through the Emergency Response Patrol, and that E999 unit is going to ensure that no longer will you have a call and be put on hold for 20 minutes to get an answering machine, but to ensure that that call is answered within 20 seconds and then having it immediately fed to the operational command center for an immediate response. The implementation, as I mentioned, of the Emergency Response Patrol Unit, these were 85 police vehicles assigned to deal specifically with just that. For far too long, we heard the situation of persons stating that they need to call a police station and they do not have many vehicles in a police station. A police station is not the avenue for an immediate response, for a rapid response. That is our first response. That first response must come from those vehicles that are actually on the street doing the patrol 24/7, staying in their area of responsibility. So there are 9 divisions, 85 odd emergency response vehicles. Measure that, say for example, the Western Division, 9 vehicles at any one time, 24 hours a day. This can ensure that within minutes, if there's a distress call for an emergency, you can have an immediate response. This is going to cause high visibility, a higher deterrent, and a rapid response. The establishment of a new special investigation unit, you will see later on the value of this, but what this has done is actually deal with many of the cases that we had that were virtually dormant for far too long. The formation of the Special Operation Response Team SORT, that obviously is something that speaks for itself. That SORT team is a team that, again, through polygraph testing, proper training, proper investigation, proper intelligence gathering, and proper sting operations, they've been very clinical in ensuring that there have been many operations that have been successful that could not have taken place in the past. We have also assigned a specialized unit to the maximum security prison to assist the prison officers in what it is that they are encountering on a daily basis. We established a new school security unit earmarked to work inside schools. There's a degree of confidentiality to this, but I can give you the assurance I am working with the Ministry of Education, and through this, it is going to ensure and play a very big part towards minimizing the problems. During the last year, we conducted over 27 Operation Strike Back exercises across all police divisions. Total of over 940 arrests, seizure of firearms, ammunition, narcotic seizures. Also, as it pertains to social activity, again, based on the data, based on the statistics, this carnival this year was regarded as the safest ever, and it had a big part to play by Trinidad and Tobago Police Service providing a blanket of protection across the country, making sure, again, the use of the operational command center just upstairs here. We also have Commissioner's Command Center, and with this, what I am stating is that we are getting real-time information from 999 calls, monitoring the vehicles, seeing all of the CCTVs, and being able to respond to a distress call as it happens. The kidnappings, again, thanks to SORT, through that degree of confidentiality, you will have seen a number of situations that took place with kidnapping that we never saw before in this country, dealing with a situation of actually extracting persons whilst they were held hostage by kidnappers, being released without the ransom being paid. These were just a few. Superintendent family, Josh Koshi from the kidnappers in Carnage, and a few others. Drug bust, again, there were a number of seizures. You recall the 600 kilograms of marijuana seized in Valsane, large cache of arms, ammunition, drugs in Cunupia, and again the initial, this was what really kicked off SWAT with the arrest of and quantity of guns seized in a multi-million-dollar drug bust in West Moorings. Again, most of these operations you would have seen from hotels and casinos. The Special Operation Response Team played a very critical part to deal with the problem we have now with the concept of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, especially of minors. We will recall a number of different operations that took place by SWAT within the bottles in Cunupia, in the west, in Port of Spain, and also recall the recapturing of the prison escapees. Dealing with natural and man-made disasters is also a very critical part that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has to play as a critical arm of law enforcement. Again, dealing with this is to ensure the safety of citizens. We recall the earthquakes and the floods, and again, because of the operational command center, we had an immediate venue operation center dealing with the situation, looking at what is required, and then passing on information in real time to the relevant divisions and providing the resources required to assist the different agencies in the Ministry of National Security. There was increased police visibility across all divisions through mobile and foot patrols. Never in the history of this country have we seen the concept of that high visibility, specifically because, again, there have now been tools to measure performance and to make police officers accountable, again, through the concept of GPS tracking and knowing exactly where the vehicles are and what it is that they are doing. There were a number of joint police and army operations. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, again, as I mentioned, with Carnival, we have been very successful in managing and maintaining law and order at major events, and it will include fetes, concerts, the registration of Venezuelans, the Borrow Day festivities, street parades. And again, it was not a knee-jerk situation. Every single event, what we do now, we treat it as an operation. We analyze the situation, we look at the threat, we look at exactly what is required, we provide the deterrent, and that is why it is all of these events have been virtually incident-free. Again, through the concept of training is something I intend to push heavily in my second year as Commissioner of Police. I think it has not been pushed as heavy as it should. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, they can only operate at maximum efficiency if it is that they have the proper training and the proper tools, and this is what they would be provided with. It included gender-based violence training, human trafficking policies. We had the trained officers in the use of non-lethal devices, that being tasers and pepper spray, and also officers being trained in customer service and public relations skills. Again, that plays a very critical part for the public to be comfortable, to be aware, and to trust the police officers when they see them and not feel intimidated, as would have been the case years gone by. We also have the intense specialized training for the new special branch unit and other units. The system of accountability is something that is going to be critical to remove the so-called rogue element from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. I think it is very unfortunate when if one police officer is apprehended for some questionable activity, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is smeared. But we have to understand that we are not perfect. We will never be perfect. We come from society. Society is not perfect. But we're expected to be at a higher standard, and that is what we intend to do, which is why we will have certain systems to ensure that performance can be measured, police officers can be more accountable, and also that again, there will be a proper deterrent, and there can be the proper consequences and disciplinary action taken. The concept of polygraph testing is something that is used worldwide. It was used prior to my arrival as Commissioner of Police for persons to get into elite units. And again, this year is going to be an example and a tool that can and would be used to assist in ensuring that there would not be breaches in critical areas in policing over the next year. Then we recall the closure of outstanding investigations. I mentioned the gates. I promised that I intend to close all gates one way or the other. You would have seen email gate, the day of total policing, the plant-like substance found at a previous Prime Minister's home, the Nelson matter, the Calabar Foundation, and others. These matters were previously unresolved for years. And again, what was done, this was not something, again, it was knee-jerk. It was based on us having proper meetings, proper plannings, analyzing the situation, giving deadlines, and making sure that one way or the other we can come to a conclusion in these matters. We intend to continue to operate along that line. Also, you'd have seen that there will be drug testing, which was never done before, and it gives the Commissioner of Police, he has that requisite authority. I was the first one to be tested. And it was negative, by the way, in case anyone else was wondering. The increase of morale in Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and also that is very critical. If you would have, I asked the members of the media again, when we all are leaving, you can actually look outside and you will see a memorial stone dedicated to those officers who lost their lives in the performance of their duty while serving this country. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, being a police officer, I see it as the most noble of all professions. When someone is willing to put their life on the line on a daily basis for a country or for a total stranger. And the 48 odd police officers, their name will be there for as long as there will be a Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. They gave their ultimate sacrifice, their lives. And it is very important that we need to remember them and to pay tribute to them. But again, it also assists in letting the police officers, we must ensure that their morale is high. And sometimes it is very difficult when the same public that they are there to protect and serve with pride, they will be the first ones to criticize and condemn. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we also involved in adopting schools across communities in specific areas, and by doing that, first they get to work with the different communities, look into the schools and see what can be done to improve it. As it pertains to firearm users license, over 1,500 FULs we approved in the last year. Now, if you look at that in comparison to 2 years prior to, there was 650. So there's been almost a 5 times increase in the issue of FULs. And this again was based on a lot of hard work by the officers in that department, because again, this is not a situation where it's not just doubles you're giving out. It is a lot of research. You've got to do background checks. You've got to analyze the person, make sure that that person is of competent body, mind, to be able to have a firearm and to ensure that he has that degree of responsibility and maturity. But having said that, when you looked at an average of just over 300 firearm users license being issued prior to, we had 1,500 in the last year, which is over 5 times the amount. Having said that, there have been over 15,000 applications. We will continue to drive as quickly as possible, but it will only be given to persons if it is that they deserve it. The FUL is not one that's to be given to each and every person, but as the Commissioner of Police, there's a law. I intend to adhere to that law. Citizens have a right to bear arms if it is that they have all that is required. So I would give them a response. It will either be yes or no. They would have seen the purchase of new dogs and horses, and this to augment the mounted and canine branches. We intend to utilize these dogs on a much more frequent basis in the next fiscal year to deal with roadblocks, cordon and search, and to assist in the operations that would take place on a more effective basis in the near future. We are also aware, again, as I spoke about morale, the concern that we have with the SRPs, where there was a concern pertaining to how they were treated, their terms and conditions. We have now established a committee to deal with these concerns, and this will play a very big part towards increasing the morale of over 3,000 SRPs. As it pertains to increased efficiency, all that we do through proper administration, intelligence gathering, operations, it will fall flat if at the end result, through that criminal justice system, we have shortcomings. Because of that, we have restructured the legal unit to improve its operational effectiveness, and that has to deal with clearing the backlog of over 300 officers on suspension, hundreds more on sick leave for several years, resolving the issues of where it is cases will collapse because of the non-attendance of officers in court. And by that, we have instituted a monitoring and evaluation unit within the legal unit to meet international best practice. As it pertains to efficiency, we continue to work with our international allies. We signed an MOU with NYPD to strengthen cooperation. They are going to assist us dealing with gang warfare, crime scene investigation, the detection rate, and other aspects of policing. The Anti-Corruption Intelligence Bureau Through my request, it was moved to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for greater collaboration. And then again, what we noticed is that the different units of fraud, cybercrime, FIB, and the ACIB, they were not working together. By them, they are now all united under one, still remaining as subunits, but now being under the white-collar crime unit. Again, to improve the effectiveness of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, 187 new recruits graduated. Yes, those are my 4 rots, by the way. We enforce laws against cruelty to animals. We'll also be seconding contracting personnel from the US and the UK, and that will be to improve the shortcomings that we have, to work in tandem with the present police officers in those units, more so the homicide unit, crime scene investigative unit, and the gang-related crimes through the units that deal with such matters. The improvement in customer service and public relations, you would have seen it through I Support Our Service, Port in the Act campaign, where persons were actually rewarded for obeying the law. So what we're doing is trying to change the system now for persons to feel comfortable, feel relaxed, and to enjoy seeing police officers. As it pertains to infrastructure, I've seen a number of different things in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, especially in the buildings. We upgraded 11 police stations. Many persons complained for the number of unserviceable vehicles that were scattered all around all of the stations. There were 260 odd on the grounds of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Academy. They are no longer there. It is now being used as a proper sporting facility for young persons. We have also given directives to do the same for all of the other police stations, to remove the prehistoric vehicles that have been just there as derelict vehicles for years. We started improvement works on the old police headquarters, and just as important, we'll be dealing with the construction of a police headquarters, which we never had for the last 20 odd years, where 20 plus years, where we do not have a Trinidad and Tobago Police Service headquarters. What we have is a police admin building, which is this. Is a difference with an administrative building to an operational headquarters. We mentioned of the use of non-lethal weapons. When it is that persons complain and they try to criticize the police service that say that we are going into overkill, never before in the history of this country have we seen a Trinidad and Tobago Police Service where we are actually putting tools for minimum use of force. And by doing this, it is to ensure proper training for police officers from all aspects. It will start with verbal persuasion, proper training for the officers in verbal persuasion, then moving to a radio that will be on the officers for backup, then the minimum use of force policy from the baton. The baton is not to be used as a pain-compliant method where you beat the person to subdue them, but to use the baton to try to restrain the person from damaging his or herself and also the police officer. Then you can move to the pepper spray, to the tasers, to the rubber bullets, with the firearm being the final use of force. So this is how we intend to enforce the minimum use of force policy. This has already commenced. As it pertains to fiscal efficiency, as the Commissioner of Police, as I stated, I intend to run the police service not just from an operational, administrative, and logistic perspective, but to run it as a business. The overtime wage bill, for example, it has been reduced from 360 million to 120 million per annum. And by doing this, it can allow me to utilize those funds in a manner that you will see in the second year of the items we intend to utilize and the policies and the projects that we can now use and acquire through the reducing expenses. Likewise, recurring expenses from monitoring meals, electricity, maintenance, cleaning, refurbished. There were over 50 police vehicles refurbished through partnership with Bemcot, and were able to return them back to serving the citizens, and this provided a cost-saving measure for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. As I mentioned, social stakeholder activities, launch of the I Support Our Service, and this has to do with, again, getting the public, the business sector, the communities to work hand in hand with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We are all in this, okay, let me take that back. I was going to say we're all in this together. We are all in this as a team, working together. This is a case of us not understanding, not accepting the fact that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are the sole authority to deal with securing the country. Getting other members of the community to work and for us to be on the same side. We launched Converge, which was a massive success both in Trinidad and Tobago by bringing different arms of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service together, and this will assist us to support the police officers.
again, dealing with social aspects, crime prevention, there's also something known as secondary crime prevention, using tools to have the energies of young persons turn away from a life of crime. There was a successful launch of the Commissioners' Cup football tournament, and this was much more than just a football tournament. What it was able to do was bring communities closer, bring persons within the communities closer. And by doing that, it is going to bridge that gap and make things a little easier in communities. Persons get to know each other, work together, and to get young persons to utilize their energies in the right manner. We've seen a number of other things, as I mentioned, pertaining to the upgrading of the facilities, courtesy calls, stakeholder meetings. I made a mandate to meet with members of parliament. I think it's much more than 14 now. I think we reached closer to 20 business groups, organizations, because this is all part of the strengthening stakeholder relationships that probably would have been lost in years gone by with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and our critical stakeholders. That, members of the media, just about 70 to 75 major policies. When you look at that over the last year, it means that every 5 days, something of significance we did to make this a better country, to make this a better Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And by doing that, that is the foundation that is required for us to move forward. It is not as simple as just saying, let us just reduce crime. For us to reduce crime, we have to put a proper foundation. The foundation has started with those 70 plus policies, tools, operations that have taken place. As I mentioned, that will be almost every 5 days, something was done of a positive note to ensure the improvement of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. A better Trinidad and Tobago Police Service makes a better Trinidad and Tobago. We can now move on quickly to what we intend to do in the second year. So the way forward, as we go into second year, we intend to restructure the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. This will be dealt with in the next month or so, definitely by October. We have to, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, there are certain units that would have been established probably 50 years ago. There are new units that are required based on the concerns that we have nationally and internationally that need to be implemented in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So the restructuring of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the transformation, the modernization of the police service, this will be completed in this next year. It has already started, and again, we intend to work with international best practice. The transformation, again, as we continue, I mentioned several units in the first year that are dealing with SWOT, the gender-based violence unit, school security unit. We will also be reigniting the coastal patrol unit. Initially, it was the police marine branch, and this will complement the Coast Guard, where the coastal patrol vessels, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, will be patrolling inshore. So there will be a 3-tiered approach where the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service from the shoreline to 2 miles out will be conducting patrols. These vessels will be capable of maneuvering very shallow waters that will be inclusive of the Gulf of Paria, the swamp, the mangroves, which can also be utilized by smugglers. These vessels will be GPS tracked. They will stay in their area of responsibility, dealing specifically in areas, Silots, Caranage, the Gulf of Paria, heading all the way up to Labrie. Yes, as I mentioned, the full establishment of a gender-based violence unit. Now, the concern we have here, when I met with NYPD, they mentioned the situation with domestic violence. We spend a lot of time being concerned about gang-related activity, but you have about 40-odd homicides per annum from domestic violence. And the problem that we encounter is that sometimes women and men would be afraid to come forward to go to a police station because of concern that they will not be given proper respect, that based on embarrassment, or even based on the perception and accusation that we have heard for years gone by, where the officers are not properly trained how to deal with a situation, and this might cause a bigger problem. Then there's the concern of confidentiality, when it is that information might get back out to the spouse or even to members of the public. The concept of the gender-based violence unit is to deal with just that, where the individuals are going to be specifically trained. You call 999 or you do online reporting, it means that they will now come to your home. You do not have to go to a police station. This will ensure confidentiality. It will ensure that the properly trained persons will be able to deal with the situation. It will also monitor persons, as it is for years we have not enforced the issues of restraining orders. And so we intend to put a serious matter to deal with the concept of gender-based violence. What will happen, as an NYPD, they explained to me, what is going to happen with this is there's going to be a spike in reports of domestic violence, because now persons will feel more comfortable to come forward and give in and to report it. And by the spike, it will then provide a deterrent for the crime then to reduce. As I mentioned, we intend to put heavy emphasis on the canines to deal with both the airport and also that ferry service from Trinidad to Tobago, but also to utilize canines in a much greater manner dealing with roadblocks and also special operations. We spoke about the mounted branch. The redesigning of the Trinidad and Tobago police uniform. The uniform will be changed this year. The uniform will also include a badge. As you see here, I'm actually wearing the badge. This is going to be used by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, by all officers. It will be easier now for better visibility for citizens. When the officer has this, he will also have his ID card on it. The next concept is to actually put a chip on this. So this year again, it all is part of the transformation of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, where there's a change in uniform, a change. You will now have this rather than just. Sometimes they don't even have their number for identification, and also a system on a belt where, as I mentioned, the minimum use of force policy. So the minimum use of force policy will now have all the different tools around the police officer's waist to deal with the items for minimum use of force. There will be the acquisition of 8 armored personnel carriers. It is definitely not going to look anything like that. Okay, and that APC is actually going to be used in a situation, they are volatile situations. We have police officers who need to go in certain areas where it is very dangerous. We realize now the situation where criminal elements have the type of weapons that have with 5.56 or 7.62 rounds that can actually penetrate a vehicle. And we need the type of vehicles to ensure that nowhere, no block, no corner belongs to any gang. This will ensure the police will be able to put very effective patrolling in specific hotspot areas 24/7. Again, with improving operational efficiency, the emergency response patrol vehicles and the highway patrol, they will all have the dashboard cameras. Right now, we will be adding another 50 to bring a total of 100 vehicles outfitted with this. And with that, it will be ensuring now that a vehicle can actually turn up at a scene. And from the operational command center, you can see in real time what is happening. Tablets will also be installed in these vehicles, and this will assist, again, the use of technology. The police officer is in his vehicle. He sees a vehicle he's not too sure about. He can type in the vehicle number. He can link now to see if there's a difference in color, make, pattern. Then you know it's a stolen vehicle. The driver's permit of individuals. You will have a database of the individual, his criminal record, if any. And all of these things would assist the Trinidad and Tobago police officers in the performance of their duty. I'll give you a simple example. A police officer goes to a 999 call at a home. He can now type in on that home and then know that that person has a firearm. That person has 3 criminal reports prior to this call being made. So he knows how to deal with the situation if he needs backup. And that is where it is where the use of technology is going to assist the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in the performance of their duty. Mobile command vehicles, again, this can be used for natural or man-made disasters and for major events. And this will assist in making sure so you have on ground zero an operational command center to be able to deal with all situations as we see fit. Again, there will be an increase in taser-type instruments and pepper spray for managing unruly crowds and to deal with persons resisting arrest. We also, if you notice the last line here about the number of recruits to increase from 100 to 220 per batch. For the last 10 years, we have done this. The batches will be just about a batch, that's the number of police officers that will be recruited at any one time. They will be recruited in 6-month periods. So you'll have about 200 police officers recruited every year. But guess what? We lose about 200 officers every year based on retirement. So we have never been able to reach our established strength. That's why we've always been 1,500 officers short. By increasing the batch Now, this will then mean that within 3 to 4 years, we'll finally reach the full establishment of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. The improvement to the E999 system, as I mentioned earlier, this will ensure now that when persons call 999, what we want you to do is to call 999. By calling 999, we can now look at your call and we can prioritize your call from if it is your cat stuck in a tree, someone stole your mango, that could be a level 3. So if there's a situation taking place, it becomes a level 1. That can now ensure that we can submit the proper response in real time based on the nature of the call. Each division will also have their own command center, so the divisional command center and the headquarters in that division will be able to monitor the emergency response patrols, look and see exactly where the vehicles are, where they are patrolling, monitor each area, and be able to utilize the emergency response vehicles in an effective and efficient manner. I have been working with the British High Commission, the London Met Police. They have assisted us. Again, we will be setting up an online reporting. What we are trying to do is to get persons to prevent persons having to come to a police station to make a report. You have a concern, you call 999 for an immediate response. Or you do online reporting. From that, online reporting means that now you can have a report, and instead of writing to the Commissioner of Police or writing to a division, who will then have to streamline it to a specific unit based on the type of report. You can now go online, whether it be fraud, domestic violence, cybercrime, and it can now be fed immediately to that unit for them to commence investigation of that report. As I mentioned, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service headquarters, we have several operational units and they are scattered all around the country. It has been a major problem for us to deal with proper policing when you have several operational arms in several different buildings throughout the country. A proper Trinidad and Tobago Police headquarters we intend to construct, and with that, again, it is also going to save the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service millions of dollars, because the rent that we are paying throughout the country with lots of buildings, lots of operational units scattered throughout the country. An operational command center, you'd have seen like NYPD, One Police Plaza, where you have specific headquarter units, whether it be cybercrime, fraud, SORT, the GB, MOPS, special branch, and you have the proper operational command center you'll have all the relevant heads and units being there, all working together, and you have a proper system to ensure effective operations. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, again, what I intend to do likewise this is not just for the police service, but for all citizens in this country. Persons love to have a firearm, but they have a firearm and they do not understand the importance of how mature you need to be. Many persons who have a firearm, many of them have not gone on a range in years. So they do not go on a range, they do not clean their weapons, they do not do the proper safety mechanisms, which is why it is that sometimes they will be negligent, they lose their firearms, they will have an ineffective fire, and also they can have a negligent discharge. And with this, I intend to ensure that all persons who have a firearm user's license, they must be able to go on a range, but it might be once every 2 years, to ensure that you understand what it is that is required if and when you use a firearm. The same thing will go for all Trinidad and Tobago Police Service officers. We intend to ensure that they go on the range annually to have effective fire and to know exactly how, when to use the firearm. Strengthen community relations. We intend to launch in November Operation Street Talk. Street Talk is a system where it is many persons see the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service as being the high hand of the law, where we intend to be involved with firearms and operations and arrests, not alone. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, in the next year, you will be seeing the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, rather than the clenched fist. What we intend to do is to extend our fingers and to have a handshake, and to get with young persons in society, those individuals who may not have that opportunity, to find an avenue for them by speaking to them, being with them, working with them, and trying to find a way for them to move away from a life of crime. Many of them have actually turned to being involved in gangs because they stated that there is no other opportunity for them. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, as I mentioned, there are many things that you say this is not policing, but if situations we see that may cause crime to escalate, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are going to push ourselves into these avenues. This is one. Through Street Talk, we intend to find about 1,000 to 2,000 young persons in high-risk hotspot areas and to have them brought into the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Youth Club and to work with them, speak to them, find avenues to improve their skill. Every single person has a skill. They have a talent. We just need to find it. And by doing that, trying to find opportunities for young persons probably to be employed and to utilize their energies in a proper manner. And with that, it will also include officers to be trained in community policing. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for just a small element of what we intend to do within the next year. What I just want to do now is just quickly show the statistics, the crime statistics. As I mentioned, the situation we're in, this took place over the last 15 years. It cannot and would not be changed overnight. But what we're doing is setting a proper foundation to ensure that we can get back to where we should be. You'll see the outline of a number of things. As I mentioned, I don't want to take too much more of your time. All of these things would be in your package. So you'll actually see how the challenges have been addressed, the violent crime statistics, and the statistics this year. This has been the ratio. The ultimate barometer we will all agree is homicide. And you'd have seen from 2008 there was a dip, and then after there's been a continued increase since 2012 or 13. These were the challenges faced. So there were a number of different strategies that we would have done to ensure that we can actually minimize the problems that took place. We also have the strategic plan. We formed strategic alliances. There was promotion, transparent steps. Then as we move now, this is just a snapshot. Comparative murders, August 17 to December 31st for the last 5 years. That was August 17 to December 31st was my term in office. You would have seen that the number of homicides for the last quarter of those last 4 years, there was a gradual increase. There was a 13% reduction in homicides. There were 25 less murders at the last quarter last year. When we're looking at quarterly murder statistics, you'd have seen this is the breakdown that we would have seen. The fourth quarter was the least homicides in 2018. When we look at 2018 to 2019, the first quarter in 2018, the red being 2018. And then we would have known what took place over the last few months. With the comparative murders, from the 17th of August to the 16th of August, 2014 to 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19. There's been a 5% reduction. There have been 27 less murders in the previous year, 17th August to 16th of August to the year before, which would have been 542 homicides. As it pertains to comparative shooting and woundings, there was a 9% reduction in shootings and woundings in this last year, 17th of August to 16th of August, in comparison to the previous year. 70 less crimes from the previous year. As it pertains to robberies, there's a 6% reduction, 180 less crimes from the previous year. Rape, incest, other sexual offenses, 18% reduction. Serious indecency, there was a 62% reduction. Kidnappings, 6% reduction. Now here, if you look at kidnappings for ransom, there were a number, some of the kidnappings that took place were in groups of 6 and two incidents of 6 each. Overall violent crime, there's been a 9% reduction in violent crime this year from 17th of August to the 16th of August to that same period last year. A 9% reduction. The concept that I'm using is if there's a 10% reduction every year, it means that in 5 years, and even if we look at homicides, we can be in less than 300 homicides. And to be able for us to pull back in 5 years, what caused us to be where we are in 15 years, it is asking a lot, but I think it is achievable. With the 9% reduction in violent crime, it means that if it is what we can peg back the gangs, the gang-related activity, the laws that have been implemented to deal with anti-gang, with the bail amendment bill, the firearm bill, I think it will play a very big part towards pegging back the gangs. Illegal firearms, you would have seen a 22% reduction. Now this is very difficult to measure because it could very well be that there's better border protection and there are less firearms available. So it is very difficult to ascertain whether it is that this is a plus or a minus by there being a reduction. These are the statistics by the calendar year. Again, you would have seen the number of offenses pertaining to firearm, 82% of the homicides so far in 2019 by firearm as it pertains to, and again, when you look at gang-related, revenge, drugs, revenge, unknown drugs, most of them also involve somewhere or the other with gang. So you see where the percentage lies with gang-related homicide. This is the motive. The projected forecast, as I mentioned, if every year we can get a 10% reduction, it means that just in about 5 years we can be down to just less than 300. Got it? And again, those are key performance indicators we are looking at. Okay, and now I'll ask Mr. Maisa now, what was done? The last aspect here, we actually wanted to get the view of the public, what the public thinks, how they would measure the performance, again, not of Gary Griffith, but more so the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Check, 1, 2. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, within the last 2 months, June, July, we're looking at June and July, 2 surveys were conducted on behalf of the TTPS, and one of them being the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Public Satisfaction Survey. All right, on this online survey, we had persons from both genders, of course, male, female, and it was open to all members of the public. And it included also the age group, persons below 25 and up to 55 and over. And if you look at the areas that we would have targeted, when you look at all those divisions comprising all the police service, policing divisions, that means the whole of Trinidad and Tobago would have been covered. And 1,225 persons were interviewed. So as we go along with the survey, there was a 59% rated that the TTPS is good or above average. Or above. The average satisfaction scores, we had a rating from 1 to 10, and the average score was 4.9 out of 10. So I'm just going to run it through quickly because you're going to get this in your...
Yes. Go back. I think it's supposed to be good, very good, and excellent. If you add all 3, you will really get 69%.
All right, 69.
There was a mistake there.
So...
Yeah, so somebody didn't do their maths.
Well, all right, and based on the survey, we said that females tended to be more satisfied with the TTPS than males.
Now, why is that?
Right? Your guess is better than mine. Right, but also to the men, if you check the difference, it was very close. So the men, they are basically satisfied also. And then we look at the confidence in the TTPS. 36% had confidence in the TTPS in 2018. That's prior to the appointment of the new commissioner, while for 2019, 55% of persons would have expressed their confidence in the TTPS, and basic scores was 5, average scores was 5 out of 10. Right, confidence in the Commissioner of Police, as I said prior to August 2018, 49% confidence in the Commissioner in 2018, while in 2019, from part of August 2018 to August 2019, you have seen an increase of 76% would have expressed their confidence in the Commissioner of Police in 2019. Now, in addition to that, last night I was listening to the Prime Minister's address, and he would have indicated that they would have done their survey and there was a 80% approval rating for the Commissioner of Police.
I have to find that 4%.
Well, so, right, confidence as it relates to age group, the highest were among persons 55 and over. But I also wanted to pay special attention to the group under 25. That was a 59% confidence in the Commissioner of Police. So our young persons, our young adults would have given good ratings to the Commissioner of Police. Females were more likely to rate the Commissioner of Police as excellent or very good.
Now, why is that?
Right, 62% versus 52% for males. Now, as I said before, the males is very close to, so it's an overall combination. All right, satisfaction with the service received as it relates to respectfulness and timeliness. 36% were not satisfied with the service received from the TTPS. All right, so you just take a look at the figures there. Persons who weren't satisfied, so and that is relates to respectfulness and timeliness. Females generally felt safer than males. However, less than a third of all respondents felt safe on community streets at night. And then we had our perceptions of efficiency, trust, and effectiveness. Highest ratings were received for respect shown by the officer, while the lowest ratings were received for the police service ability of controlling violent crime. All right, so that's something that we'll be working on.
Is it online? This was the online?
Online survey. All right, this is the Trinidad Tobago Police Service satisfaction survey that was done online. All right, and the second survey, as I said before, this will be given to you. The second survey was the Commissioner's phone survey results. Right, participants by gender, we had a total of 723 persons that took part in this particular survey. %65% of the respondents rated the current commissioner as excellent or very good. Level of approval for the Commissioner of Police, 79% approve or greatly approve of the performance of the Commissioner of Police. Right, this was very impressive. Public support for Trinidad Tobago Police Service current initiatives, 95% support the current initiatives of the Trinidad Tobago Police Service, right? And as the Commissioner mentioned, this badge here, Commissioner of civilians are asking, or they are saying that they want to join the service just because of the badge. Up to today, persons were indicating that. So, members of the media too. Levels of confidence in the TTPS. Only 14% said they had no confidence in the TTPS. Most were somewhat confident, and 35% were confident or very confident in the TTPS. Satisfaction with the current direction of the TTPS. Only 14% were not satisfied with the current direction of the TTPS. All right, so the remainder they are quite satisfied with the present direction. Satisfaction with performance of the TTPS in your neighborhood. 66% was somewhat satisfied or very satisfied with the performance of the Tobago Police Service in their neighborhood. All right, and that's the end of the survey. Quite positive. So we now ask members of the media to ask any questions that they may have. Remember to identify yourself.
No questions?
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Jens Levin with the Newsday. You gave a lot of statistics there, and we'll start off with the last one pertaining to the survey. How much was this survey cost in terms of the manpower and particularly the areas that were called for the phone survey? What were some of the areas that were telephone?
Okay, I don't have that offhand, but there would be, I don't think there's a cost. There was a cost. It was online reporting. There were two different polls that took place. One was online reporting, so there's no cost to that because it was done by our own unit here. And then after with the call-ins, again, that was done internally. So there was no, the cost itself. What I could do, I could get the breakdown as to the geographical locations of where the calls would have taken place. I could get that for you.
Now, I want to move away from everything that you said for a little bit. We'll get back to the in coming minutes. You have been regarded as popular, one of the more popular commissioner of police. You have a high rating according to the survey. You also have somewhat of a combative / antagonistic relationship with many in society, including members of the media. Is there any plans? Is there any plans in your upcoming year to temper that a bit?
Yeah, I don't think the media would like that. I'll tell you why, C. Jensen. The important, regardless of what you just said, I don't boast. But one thing I could boast about is that it would be difficult for anyone in the media to find anyone else that who has ever held public office that is more accessible to the media than myself. And that is a fact. Because I'm a part, the fact of the matter is that I am fully aware of the importance of the media. And because of that, you all, the media, you all are very passionate and you all have a very important part to play in the development of this country. And in the position that I hold, I see myself in the same situation. And then we will have difference of opinion. But I fully respect the media. And I respect the media to the point that if at any time members of the media, they will call me. And they could, everyone here, are looking at, they will confirm that when they call, I miss your call, I will even call you back. So the fact of the matter is that I'm sure you will prefer to have someone who might be a little antsy at times because I have strong passion. But in the same line, I fully respect you to the point that I will always be the most accessible commissioner of police. Now, having said that, I would also like to take this opportunity today to thank the members of the media. The measured success, and you could call success based on what it is the public they're seeing. The media in general have been very instrumental in being very professional in the majority of things that they have published. What I am just trying to, I'll give you a quick example. There's one newspaper, one individual, Jensen. She has written 14 articles in the last 12 months. I'm not going to call Dennis Wren's name, right? But 14 articles, all against me. Now, when you see that, I will ask Mr. Faris Hossain and Ms. Dawn Thomas and Anna Ramdas and all of you to explain, is that impartial journalism or is it an agenda? Is it some? No, it is my right to bring this up. Why is it that the media will think that you could say what you want and we must just answer the question? No. The same way that I have shortcomings, members of the media might have shortcomings. And if it is you have one individual, 14 times she has written, and all 14 is deliberately assigned to attack and discredit myself or the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, to the point that someone will write a report on me and you will just publish it. So anyone could say anything about Gary Griffith and she will publish it without even getting any facts. That obviously is a need for concern. And what is wrong with me actually bringing that forward to the media? So there would be shortcomings. However, other than that individual, the media has been very professional. I think I have an excellent relationship with all members of the media, bar one. And I will, but again, it goes with communication and interaction. So I would continue to be very passionate in my job. What I ask the media, again, is to understand my job. I understand yours. And it is not it's not a situation of confrontation. It's a matter of both of us have our job, we respect it, we are very passionate about it. And maybe you have never seen someone in public office that would not challenge the media, but to tell the media, listen, maybe at times you could be wrong. And what is wrong with doing that? I don't see that being, that should not be seen as being confrontational. That is just good dialogue to try to help both parties in developing themselves towards the better good of the country.
And part of that development will be the commissioner accepting when the media says at times you could be wrong.
Of course.
Fair enough. Going to the last Quavers incident that you made mention of, I know there were use of the amalgamated buses. I recall the use of the amalgamated buses as well.
Celots.
Yes. No, not yes.
Celots.
Right. Firstly, is there a cost to that? If so, why not utilize other national security vehicles?
Good point, yeah. Because we don't have. One of the things that you would have seen, apart from the mobile command center, we would also be acquiring a vehicle to deal specifically with situations like that, without us having to contract something from a private company to assist us in such matters. And this all has a part to play with dealing with crowd control, unruly crowds, dealing with a situation of a disaster and persons being in a situation where they intend to break the law. And you would have seen it, as I mentioned, in the last year, the days of persons blocking the road and standing up in the middle of the road because they needed to get a street light or a box drain built, it is over. Because I said anybody who breaks the law, they will be dealt with by the police service. And that has stopped. So now what they do is actually they burn the tires and they run. But the fact of the matter is that I have to set an example and set the tone in this country that for far too long, this has become a lawless society. And you know what I have noticed is that many people, everybody wants me to deal with enforcing the law, but it must not affect them. And that has been a big problem in this country. It must not affect me. Do what must be done, but don't let it affect me. Do not let it affect my political party. Don't let it affect my business. Don't let it affect my contracts. Don't let it affect my gangs. It can't, there's a saying, you cannot be half pregnant. There's no such thing. So I intend to operate in that manner. And going back to your point, so there is actually going to be the acquisition of such a vehicle. And anyone who decides, because when you do this, your rights could never be so strong that you feel that you can infringe on the rights of others. So because I feel that I am not getting enough protection at UE, I'm going to block the road and stop others from having their free access for freedom of movement. You're wrong. You're breaking the law. So as much as I will sympathize with you, I will be concerned about what it is you have to do. I will even utilize the police service to assist in trying to deal with your concerns in the right manner. If it is you're involved in something that may involve massive disturbance, destruction, unruly crowds or protests, the Tobago Police Service will operate, and that style that you have seen is an operational system that I will be utilizing to prevent that from happening. So there will be a vehicle that will be acquired to deal specifically with that, to take away these unruly elements who will be breaking the law.
And in the interim, what's the cost of renting, borrowing?
I don't know. I have to get back to you on that. I just call for it.
Okay. Again, staying away from a little bit with that. One of the major issues for the TTPS over the last year and previous years, but we're sticking with you in the last year, has been gang activity and gang-related murders. The last time we had a gang-related charge, I believe, was under the SOE. Most of those collapsed. There is now sort of a reigniting of the laws pertaining to dealing with gangs. What are some of the issues that you have faced in terms of not identifying, because we have seen leaked reports of people being identified as gang members, but arresting and bringing to prosecution gang members?
I just came out of a meeting with the chaired by the Minister of National Security to deal with just that. The Minister, he chairs a meeting with the relevant heads of the protective services on a weekly basis. Because what happened prior to is that the units were operating in silos, where again, the SSC has a critical part to play in dealing with this, with the Tobago Police Service, sometimes even the Defense Force. And by us utilizing the National Operation Fusion Center, the information that is being shared between the different arms of the protective services will play a very big part towards the results that you will see in the very near future to deal with the reduction of gang-related activity, or to actually have those persons who are involved and instrumental in gang-related activity brought to justice.
I recall during the last year you made mention of and this was on the reason for sort of leaks in the TTPS, leaks to criminal activity. There were two major leaks from Special Branch. I think there were three. Two of them, one of them was pertaining to a death threat to you, and two of them pertaining to gangs. Have you done anything to plug these leaks, which seems to identify criminal activities and gangsters? And part two of my last question is how many of this information that was leaked has been passed on to the Director of Public Prosecution?
All right, well, what I pass on to the DPP obviously will be confidential. As it pertains to leak, because of SORT, and that is why SORT has been so successful, because those individuals are properly polygraphed to ensure that at no time, well, as much as possible to minimize the possibility of leaks. We had it on a number of occasions. Members of the media also will explain, we'll have a tip-off and we intend to deal with the operation. You will utilize the police officers in those stations. But if say 5% of society is not perfect, it means 5% of the police service will not be perfect. So if you have 50 police officers at a station, it means probably 2 or 3 police officers would be on the payroll of a gang member. And by doing that, it means that when we have these operations, persons are fully aware prior to the operation, which is why through the use of SORT now, when it is we have these sting operations, we get the intelligence from SSA, from Special Branch, from the Special Investigative Unit / OCIU, and we realize that it's something of significance, SORT will be able to deal with it rather than take it from the police stations. So that has assisted. Some of the leaks that you would have seen, not everything would have been 100% accurate. There's a difference with information, intelligence, and evidence. The fact of the matter is that there's a lot that we know, but we intend to turn that information into intelligence and evidence. So until it gets there, we don't deal with the DPP on those matters. No. There's a lot of dialogue we have with the DPP, but I'm not going to explain I'm not going to pinpoint the specifics.
Commissioner, good afternoon. Urvashi from TV6. Just following up on the issue of leaks. Have you investigated some of those said leaks? Because, of course, when gang members or contractors, as they are sometimes referred to, when they understand that they are being investigated, they are tipped off and they may, in fact, hide their wealth or hide their ill-gotten gains. Yeah,
no, definitely. We have enough. It's difficult for them to hide it from now. With the relevant laws that have been implemented, I wish to thank the politicians for what is being done by the Bail Amendment Bill, the Firearm Amendment Bill, the Explain Your Wealth Bill. These things will play a significant part. You can't hide it. It's difficult for you to hide, because if somebody is involved in white collar crime and he has several $1 million, even if he gives it to someone else as a slush fund, that person now has to account for it. So the Explain Your Wealth the Explain Your Wealth, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it will play a very big part towards dealing with white collar crime.
And just keeping on the issue of leaks, there's just this one incident I'd like to bring to your attention. It's the issue of the charging of Ms. Molly McDonald, the MP. I noticed that the Ministry of Communication, they would have issued a statement, and that would have been on Sunday, August 11th. And they stated that they had been reliably informed that Ms. McDonald and 4 others will be charged. The statement from the TTPS came after that. So I'm asking, your statement reads August 12th, saying that these persons will be charged, they will appear at the magistrate's court later that day. Did that come to your attention, and would you have been, or the TTPS, are you suspecting that some member of the TTPS would have informed government of the TTPS's intention to charge these persons?
Okay, and I'd like to thank you for that question. So I want to clarify a point here. I actually saw on social media where persons were actually criticizing the Prime Minister, whoever, saying that he should have known or been briefed prior to the arrests taking place. If you notice, the Prime Minister or no one in government, they were aware, and that is how it is supposed to be. No, there was absolutely no leak. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, they did what was required. We had no pleasure. We never have pleasure in arresting anyone. There's no pleasure that the TTPS has to gain. What we are doing is our job, and without fear or favor. But in this situation, had we taken the guidance of other persons who thought that the Prime Minister, as the chair of the National Security Council, he should have been alerted. Just think of what would have happened had he been alerted. Had he been alerted prior to the person anyone being arrested, then there would be that perception that the Prime Minister could have tipped off individuals, he could have informed other individuals. He never knew a thing. No one in government opposition knew what was happening. And that means that there was a proper due diligence that took place, and there was no leak that happened. Prior to a charge taking place, that has already been done. The charge is already laid, so there's nothing that can be done. After that, there's nothing that can change the shift the goalposts. The Prime Minister, as the chair of the National Security Council, he may be made aware prior to a charge being laid. So there's not a leak pertaining to a charge as the chair of the National, but you cannot inform the chair of the National Security Council of any matter that is being investigated. After the investigation has been completed, the Prime Minister may or may not have been made aware.
You said he may or may not have been made aware of a charge. Under what circumstances is that decision made? And of course, members of the public will now wonder, is it that you're seeking consent?
No, you don't. You don't, because if the charge is already laid out and has already been approved by the DPP, it's a done deal. So there's nothing that could be done. So at no time was there any influence or in any way that anyone could have done to change what was taking place by the police service. The Trinidad Police Service operated in a very professional manner by ensuring that information was fed to anyone on a need-to-know basis, and no one needed to know until after charges were laid.
All right, good evening. Peter Christopher from Guardian Media. Mr. Griffith, you have said that it's not the Guy Griffith show, but as the commissioner, the top cop as it would be, I guess you would be in a position to evaluate how the police service has been operating under your stewardship. So 1 year in, would you be able to provide your own analysis in terms of what you have felt has been done properly by the police service and where you have failed to perhaps improve in certain areas in the past year?
Sure, thanks. I am not here to judge myself. I leave it for the public. And the public, they have a right, individuals have a right to judge me in a negative manner or positive. The polls will have their own view. My focus will always be to do the best I can do. And I did everything that I could have done. Just looking at you, we are speaking about 5 major policies that took place. Sorry, one policy took place every 5 days in the last year. What I can state, my main concern, well, is the fact that the Trinidad Police Service, they did all that they could have done. I had my officers, some of them worked 48 hours constantly, 48 hours on, then they're coming off, back out on the street. They were going above and beyond the call of duty. And this is because what has happened now is that the police service, the officers are not working because they have to work. They want to work. They wanted to go out there. They wanted to perform. They wanted to get back involved in operations, in roadblocks. They wanted to start getting the public to start believing in them, having trust in them, having faith in them. That belief, that trust, that faith, that hope is something that I think this country lost. And some people, they don't want it. So as you'll see the other 20%, it may involve persons that will always see the glass half empty. My job is to try to bring back that degree of hope and faith and belief in this country. And the main thing has to do with national security. And I could just give you a quick example. For years, when it is you go to these communities and you ask children what you want to be when you grow up. People want to be a footballer, they want to be a doctor or a lawyer. What you're getting now, you're getting a lot of children want to be police officers yet again. And that's a powerful statement for a young person. So it means young persons, their minds are actually being, and that comes from their parents. So their parents are actually putting it in that, hey, it is something good to be a police officer. And when police officers see that, they hear that, they feel that, it makes them want to go out more to perform above and beyond the call of duty. So if you can get young persons wanting to be police officers, now that never happened before, that's a good sign. I'm just waiting to hear the day young persons say they want to be a politician.
Well, to again ask the question, is there any area in particular that you think that the TTPS definitely needs to improve that you wanted to work on in your first year and it perhaps did not pan out?
Yeah, okay, understood, yeah. Again, it's the first year, I never had a budget. I had to work with the budget that was given to me. So obviously there were shortcomings of things I wanted to drive with at a faster pace. The Trinidad Police Service, let me clarify something here. When people look at the officers here, yeah, they'll always have rogue elements, but you don't discredit the police service just because of that. One police officer may have done something wrong and you see someone on social media, this is why I can't trust the police service. So one person will do something incorrect and you blame 9,999. The fact of the matter is, when our police officers go abroad to train, they top courses, they beat the best in the world. We get commendations from NYPD, Chicago, Boston, LA, London Met Police for our officers. So you know what is missing? What is missing? It's twofold. First, to ensure that they have the proper training and the tools, and secondly, for the public to buy into the fact to just give them the chance, give them the opportunity. Because if we fail, the country fails. If we succeed, the country will succeed. And I think that I was not able to drive as quickly as I should because of this was my first actual budget preparation. And with that, I'll be able to drive and go down to the throttle much faster.
You mentioned earlier that it has been mentioned before, that you were the first person to take a polygraph test in the service. Would you be able to give us some further information as to how many officers have since subscribed to the test?
No, stranger, I haven't taken it as yet. They're still trying to prepare it. I took the drug test. I took the drug test, yeah. The polygraph test as well. But again, I do not want people to get the impression. I have a very good working relationship with the Police Social and Welfare Association. They have some concerns, and this must not be seen as a tool to target guilt. The polygraph testing is not for that. It is to ensure that I can find specific avenues to clean up areas, like for example the Southwestern Peninsula. If we can lock those borders down with the use of drones, which again we did not put there will be use of air technology, where drones will also be implemented in the air units of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Coastal Patrol Unit, GPS tracking, working with the Coast Guard, and making sure that there'll be a minimum number of leaks in the Southwestern Peninsula. It will play a very big part towards us reducing the number of illegal drugs, weapons, and problem with human trafficking into our country.
Final question.
I know, I don't have to ask.
Final question.
Final question.
Commissioner, you have to excuse us. I mean, this is a year in review, so there's a lot of things we'll need to cover. 3 to 5 questions may be a little bit too little. So I'll ask all my questions and then pass one.
We have more questions again, Johnson?
Yeah, just 2 or 3. One question with 3 parts. All right? In response to my
3 questions.
In response to my colleague, you made mention of encouraging hope in the TTPS and whatnot. Are you taking responsibility for that? That's one question.
Oh, just a minute, I want to clarify. What do you mean? If I'm taking
Are you taking responsibility for encouraging the hope in the TTPS for them to come out after working 48 hours?
No. Okay, no. Let me answer it one by one. No, not at all. What was done was based on the hard work, dedication, and professionalism of the Trinidad and Tobago police officers, not myself. I take no credit for this. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, they achieved. You would have seen the poll. The poll had, apart from Gary Griffith, the poll had a lot to do with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and there's a transformation, there's a change in belief and trust and faith that the public has in the police service. And so that is not, I can't force someone to be a good officer. It came from within here. It came from here. And that is what they have done, and that's what they have achieved. So the benefit and the success of that lies strictly with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
But you will admit that the difference between then and now is you.
No comment.
Sticking with money for a little bit, do you have a cost of the new uniforms and the badges?
Yeah, I can send that for you. There's a budget allocation. I think it'll be about $8 million, so not to ballpark for the uniform. The uniform will change. It is more conducive towards what you will see in international best practice. The tactical units will have a different type of uniform. But one of the things that we would have, more important than the uniform change, as I mentioned, the badge is to give easy identification. We are working closely with the PCA. I have a serious concern when persons ask police officers for their ID and they refuse to give it. With this, it's up close and personal. It will have your name on it, but also the communication. Police officers should have a form of communicating. There's a massive restructuring we're doing in technology, dealing with, it's known as domain awareness, similar to NYPD, where the police officers, through their phones and through the divisional commanders, they will know what is happening in real time. And also the belt, as I mentioned, with the tasers, the pepper spray, the rubber bullets, and the firearm, the handcuffs, all being around the police officer. So it's a belt that will also be there. So the transformation is the whole image. Image is going to play a big part towards further transformation and further improvement that the public will have in the trust and the respect and belief of the police officers.
Now, you made mention of budget. What's your figure? What you're asking for this year?
I can't do that. I could ask for a lot. What I am doing, however, is that you would have seen, for example, with overtime, from 36 million a month to 12 million a month. You're speaking about $24 million per month saved. By doing that, what I will be doing then is, again, I'm trying to run the police service as a business, wasted expense, trying to reduce those costs, but then going to the ministry and are saying, well, listen, we're not going to ask for much more. What we're going to ask is the same amount, but we are going to realign and restructure the funds that you have provided for us in a more effective manner through the things that we intend to utilize and need to improve the operational effectiveness of the police service.
Ma'am?
And my last question. You made mention during your speech of negligent officers or 2 instances of negligent firing. I recall 2 officers with MP5 or other
negligent discharge.
Yeah. And you just before that you made mention of going to the the range to practice. 2 things coming out of that. One, do we need to look at where we are purchasing these firearms from? Are they at all effective? And 2, what, if anything, would be done in terms of officers going forward to not have these things happening again?
Yeah, and that's why it is mandatory. No, you could correct me if I'm wrong. There's a policy that police officers must go on a range. It was never enforced. Just like there's a policy for drug testing. I am enforcing it to ensure that police officers, because if it is you don't have accurate fire, you could actually harm someone by an inaccurate shot or a negligent discharge or by a stoppage of your weapon because you didn't clean it properly. So persons must understand the importance you have carrying a firearm, not just for police officers, but for persons in the private security industry and also those persons who have FULs. So I intend to make it mandatory, and that's why the FULs now will no longer be a book that when it is you put it in the washing machine and you will wash it. I know it happens. But you have a card, but with the card there's going to be a chip, and the chip now is going to ensure that we will know that you have actually gone to a certified range. So there's not so much of the weapon being defective. The defects and mistakes you make is mostly not by the weapon, but by the individual who carries the weapon.
Ma'am?
Commissioner, thank you for providing all the information that you have. Anna Ramdas from the Express newspaper. I just want to ask you quite simply, do you think that Trinidad and Tobago is safer today than it was 1 year ago? Do you think the people are safer today than it was 1 year ago?
Well, it's not for me to say. It is really for the public. The perception by the public is that they feel safer. Now, I'll give you an example. In the 1990s in New York City, there was a 53% reduction in homicide, a 61% reduction in serious crime. I worked closely with Mayor Rudy Giuliani and the other commissioners. I met 6 New York police commissioners in the last 15 years. And even though there was that reduction in crime, for 2 years, when they did the similar polls like this, there was not even a percentage drop in the public feeling safer. They did not feel safe. They didn't want to hear that. So the concept of crime reduction and the perception and fear of crime are 2 different things. In 1999, there was a certain prime minister where the homicide rate was 95. And the country thought that he was failing because they still spoke about how he threw his hands in the air. And the homicide rate was less than 100. So it meant that even though the homicide rate was low, the perception and fear of crime was still there. My operation is twofold. It is to reduce crime, but also to take away the perception and fear of crime. The law-abiding citizens, what they want is to find out, not just to see statistics, or for you to speak about a 5% reduction in crime or 10% reduction. They want to know that if I call 999, I'm not going to be put on hold for 20 minutes. They want to know that if I make a call, there's going to be a response in a few minutes. They want to know that if I go to a police station, I'll be respected, I'll be treated fairly, I will not be abused. They want to know that police officers understand their role and function as employees working for us as citizens. That is what makes the public feel safe. That is what will make them feel safer, not the crime statistics. So there are 2 different things. The polls will have it of what is perceived. My intention is to continue to do what I can to the best of my ability to make this a safe country.
In your presentation, you said that the murder rate is the ultimate barometer in terms of measuring the success in terms of the crime fight. What has been the greatest impediment for you as police commissioner and for the police service in dealing and addressing the murder problem in the country? Yeah,
and again, we speak about the detection rate. When I met with the London Met Police, they spoke to me. They said it is very difficult to have detection for a gang-related homicide. When one person kills another 2 o'clock in the morning in a side street, you're not going to find, there's very little with DNA testing or crime scene investigation. It's a drive-by. So the problem lies where it goes back to gang-related activity. There are just a couple thousand young men who have lost their way, and they're being used by gang leaders, and they feel that the only way that they can get somewhere is through being a gang member. We don't have a youth problem, Anna. We have an adult problem. Because it's the adults, it's the parents that have allowed their 15, 16-year-old sons to now become gang members. And then they bleed them, they get the benefits from it. There's no care or concern that your son could be a victim. And then when he becomes a victim, then you start to ball, all you're too wicked. But where were you to stop your 15-year-old child from playing cards with 3 hardback men 3 o'clock in the morning? Where were you when you didn't realize your young son he has more gold chain from his neck going straight down to his feet, and he's purchasing items and he's not working? We have a situation, my biggest problem is to get the public to buy into the fact that, listen, in communities, stop treating the gang members, the leaders. They are not the Robin Hoods. They are the scum of society. They have led young men to their deaths, and they have used them. Parents need to accept their responsibility. Communities need to step up. The public, one of the concerns obviously will be politics. Where anything decision is made, it is based on the politics. I certainly don't see politics. I will never see yellow or red. I will see red, white, and black. Or I will see it as black and white, as clear as day, right and wrong. I think at times the public will need to accept something for what it is and stop just trying to find a political spin to something. The Tobago Police Service, we have no intention to be political. But sometimes we are forced into something where something happens, the police services are X police service or Y police service. We are not. We are police service for the law-abiding citizens. And my job is to put as much emphasis as possible to respect the rights of citizens, to ensure that their most fundamental right is adhered to, which is that of safety and security. So you asked my biggest hurdle. Is for everyone to get on board and to buy into the fact that we need to deal with this situation and stop putting our heads in the sand. My final point in that, when I mentioned someone is held for stealing a mango and he's given 3 years. A man is held with a firearm with 13 rounds and he's for a year. And a representative in the criminal justice system has the audacity to say, well, that is just the way it is. It is wrong. We need to deal with it. We need to accept the fact that something is wrong. How can a man be charged for stealing a mango get more time than someone with a firearm? Someone with a firearm, it means his intention is to kill 13 persons. And you will see it is based on the individual and not the offense. We need to stop finding excuses, and everybody needs to step up to the plate and do their job and just stop blaming each other.
Just 2 quick things. State contracts, you have been vociferous with respect to that to gang leaders. Has that been actively addressed? And secondly, you spoke about 50 active shooters. Have this number been reduced?
Well, going back with the state contracts, I think the Honorable Prime Minister, he was clear in what it is he stated, that he intends to give me the support and to do what is required to put an end to it. The fact of the matter is that these individuals, they do not use the profit towards assisting the communities. Their home itself is actually worth more than the rest of the community. The profit that they make is used towards purchasing more firearms, hiring more gang members, and putting hits on other gang members to get their state contracts. It is not working. They are not changing. As it pertains to the persons with firearms, the numbers, we know, again, there's a difference between intelligence and evidence. The fact of the matter is that when we hold them, they actually get back out on the streets the following day. That is why it was so important for that bail amendment bill, the firearm bill, to be implemented, and also to ensure that if and when these persons are held, that is the best time we could get them prior to their committing their crime. By doing that, it will ensure we put those 50-odd persons where they belong, which is not out on the streets.
Final question from Mr. Ian Waisman.
Commissioner, last Independence Day, you made a promise to the public saying that in 1 year time, you will have a better police service. With all you have done, you have shown us, and you know the work is not yet complete. How satisfied are you in relation to that promise?
I am never satisfied. I deem for perfection. So as much as I have done all that is possible, I intend to do much more. I wish I can do much more, and I intend to do much more. As I said, this is not the Gary Griffith show. This is about trying to make this the best Tobago police service ever. And that is my intention, that is my job, that is my mission.
Just one more question, Commissioner. This is something that came up recently, actually. TT Rideshare sent out a notice to their customers today that they would be only picking up certain people in East Port Spain from certain areas due to crimes committed against some of their drivers in that area recently. Firstly, has this information been brought forward to you by that organization that their drivers are under attack?
No, I haven't.
And is East Port Spain an area that the police service is looking into with regard to upsurge in reports in recent weeks?
Yeah, we have constantly. Remember, there was a report from Duma. What I would ask the public, you have a right to see whatever you want. But we need to be very careful. If it is that you're getting a national security advisory, please take it from a registered arm of the Ministry of National Security. We intend to do all that is required to ensure safety and security. We do not intend to profile any area, any community. We intend to have as much operational tools to ensure the safety and security in specific areas. But I think even in that area, it has been rather quiet over the last few weeks. And again, because of the IATF, our intelligence units, the CID, there's a lot of work we are doing in that area to ensure that there's a degree of calm in that area. And I think it has worked so far.
Commissioner, during your recap, you spoke about certain hotel raids that would have been conducted and some foreign nationals were detained by the police. What happens to those women? Because I don't think we've gotten any update on the women who would have been taken from Chinese restaurants and other women.
Yeah, what happened
to them while we determine whether they are victims of human trafficking or in fact members of the sex trade?
Yeah, well, in fact, at times, one or two of the individuals, they are aiding and abetting and being the conduit between the persons who brought them in and the girls themselves. I try to avoid matters like that after it's being investigated, but after we do our work, it is then handed over to the Victims and Witness Support Unit, sometimes even the Child Protection Unit, because as you would have realized, at times there were minors that were involved. And because of that, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for me to say much more, especially when minors were involved. As it pertains to the other matters, I don't have the information offhand. I know those matters were still under investigation, but after, when we hand them over, they go to the Victims and Witness Support Unit, which is an arm of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and the Child Protection Unit, to ensure the safety, security of the individuals and to make sure that we can assist them in trying to get, sometimes they are threatened by individuals, and sometimes we need them to assist in actually giving information to assist the police.
I'm a little bit confused. Is it that you just assume that they are victims, so you hand them over to the Victim Support Unit? Don't you do investigations to determine whether some of them willingly...
Yeah, no, this is after the investigation. Yeah. So there will be one or two that could probably be charged, but by and large, the majority would go under the Victims and Witness Support Unit.
And how come we don't hear about the owners of these established ones being charged? Is that a difficult part of your investigation?
No, it is something that I intend to improve. I understand your point, and you're quite right. It makes no sense just to release the hostages, and the person who is actually be the perpetrator would get off. They have been able to beat the system. We know exactly what they are doing, and I intend to deal with it. Obviously, for obvious reasons, I wouldn't explain how I intend to deal with it.
Okay, also during your discourse, you talked a little bit about the different exercises that the TTPS would have done. You spoke about SWOT exercises. I can't remember the numbers offhand. Then you spoke about
27 or something, yeah.
Then you spoke about Operation Strike Back as well. Of course, there was an exercise or an incident in Sealots a few weeks ago. How would that one be classified, where a supposed gang member, Dole, was shot and killed?
It was an operation, and operations would go along a line where if persons do not adhere to the law, unfortunately, it may go down in a manner that can cause dire consequences for the individual. I have been very straightforward with what has happened. Again, I will ask you all to go outside there when you all leave and take a look at that plaque with 48 police officers killed in the line of duty. Some of them were shot at. Over the last year, several of my officers were shot at. Thankfully, I did not lose an officer in my first year as Commissioner of Police, but it was by the grace of God, by the grace of their training, and by the grace of a bulletproof vest. So these individuals have been very lethal. They have been attacking my police officers, and as I stated then, and as I state now, if anyone tries to put God past their throat and harm any of my police officers, they are going to be properly trained to know the how and when to take an effective fire.
But of course, Commissioner, we've heard very little from the TTPS regarding this particular exercise and what it has happened, why the area was cordoned off, residents were debarred from going into what we would assume was a public space.
What was that? What debarred from?
From going into their community, the streets, the fishing area.
Who said that? They were not debarred?
That particular day, I can't remember.
Well, you know, there's something called a crime scene. If there's a crime scene, you don't bring the dogs and the marish and the parish to walk around a crime scene. It's something that usually happens, I think, everywhere else in the world.
Right, but of course that happened for hours.
Yeah, it is a crime scene. That is how a crime scene is dealt with.
And is it normal for, well, I don't think it's actually the actual scene. I know for a fact we were not allowed to drive into certain parts
Oh,
of the
and-
community, and media was physically barred from crossing the road to get across from one side to another. We were told to turn around, find somewhere else in. So it seems as though traffic, in fact, was restricted from entering there. So hence my question. But of course, there's been, in the absence of any police statement, there have been a lot of comments by residents of the community who feel that there were statements that the police came with a body bag. They came to,
Yeah.
in fact,
By the only two wicked
person.
posse, I know.
Yeah.
But of course, police commissioner, like I said, this happens in the absence of a statement by you. And if I recall correctly, the last time you referred to the individual who was killed, you didn't. It was after he was dead, but you just said that the TTPS said that he was linked to the killing of some fishermen. You have not yet acknowledged that this man was killed by police. Any circumstances that
Well,
were
because
surrounding that?
there's something, ma'am, called an investigation. Until the investigation is completed, as much as you would love to have a matter brought forward, until an investigation is completed, then it will be inappropriate for anyone to make a statement whilst a matter is still undergoing investigation. It's as simple as that.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Commissioner, do you think a day will come in Trinidad where people will be, not afraid to walk the street and will have full trust in the police service once again?
Yes, this can turn around. It would turn around. I give you that assurance. I do not feel.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just
Ladies
one
and gentlemen.
final
Media,
question,
that's
if you
it,
will.
Mr. Johnson.
If you will.
Mr.
You answered myself and my colleague in the Express this question about evidence and information being two separate things, specifically with gang-related activities and the contracts and whatnot. What's the difficulty in transforming all information that you have into evidence?
Well, again, because as I mentioned, where citizens have been very reluctant to come forward and give information, but with the change in certain bits of legislation, with the Explain Your Wealth, the bail amendment bill, you see, if someone knows that someone is arrested and the very next day he could be out in the street, persons will be very reluctant to come forward and give information or evidence. So there are a number of different factors that I am boxing in to ensure that it can assist us in the very near future.
Okay, thank you very much, members of the media. Have a good weekend.